Welcome to Coffee with our morning host. We broadcast a host of programs like current topics, newspaper headlines, and music on Radio Sri Lanka. Tune in every weekday from 7 to 8 a.m.
We are going to have a very, very interesting discussion today on the coffee hour with some music. So why don't you start sipping your coffee and listen to this, because I think it's going to be of some help to everyone out there who's into e-commerce branding. And then again, it's all about future of Sri Lankan youth in a digital world. So we have with us consultant lecturer at NIBM School of Business, Mr. Amila Dilshan. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Sherry. Good morning.
Time for some coffee, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this time, we're going to talk about the digital literacy and about the digital world and the advantages of the digital world and how it has actually, improved over the years, I would say, because now everything is digital. So today let's talk about the digital literacy among young people. So what do you think? What do you think the measures look like taken from the Sri Lankan government to enhance digital literacy among the young people?
Yes, in the first place, thank you for having me this morning, and we are discussing one of the most important topics in the present day context. When it comes to the digital literacy, I must say, Sri Lanka is not in a bad position. Maybe before the COVID-19 pandemic happened, it was not quite strong in terms of the penetration. But as far as Sri Lankan population is concerned, we have about almost 22 million people, and we have 165% mobile phone penetration. So it's almost double the population.
That's the thing. I think there's like 2 mobiles per person,
exactly,
or even
yes.
more than that sometimes.
Yes, especially as far as the workforce is concerned, almost everybody has 2 mobile phones, because, when it comes to the workforce calculation, we omit people above 60 and then below 18 and then again the clergies and differently abled people. So whoever has this purchasing power, that is where I'm coming to, whoever has the purchasing power mainly, really do have almost all 2 mobile phones, or rather 2 SIMs. So that's the mobile phone penetration. And on the other side, when it comes to the internet penetration, it's almost over 65%. So almost 6 people out of 10 have internet. So I think this data clearly reflects the fact that we are a digitally savvy nation with the mobile phone penetration and the internet penetration. So particularly in the youth target segments, if you take people from 18 to 35, the literacy rate is quite high. The most important part where we have to look at is how can we really commercialize this in order to gain the best advantage for the country, especially during this crisis situation, by bringing in more dollars, especially with relevant to e-commerce. Let's discuss about the e-commerce component, because the world has been opened up for us. So in terms of the literacy, we are in a good rate, to answer your question.
That's great, actually, because we see everybody using the internet. As you said, the internet penetration has above 50%.
Above 60%.
Above 60% in Sri Lanka. So that's great. But what does it look like outside of Colombo?
Well, that's a good question, because 80% of our population is rural. That again, the kind of basis that we take to categorize urban and rural most of the times depend on the kind of local government authorities we have. Basically, the municipal councils, we identify them as urban, and whatever the Pradeshya Sabha that we have under rural. But sometimes there are areas like, say, Kalaniya, maybe some other areas where they also have Pradeshya Sabha, which are not really rural but categorized under rural. So outside Colombo, basically outside Western Province, yes, the rural segments we can observe, but national-wide, Sherry, we can see a very high percentage in terms of the digital usage. But when it comes to the entertainment component, that's got strong outside Western Province, because inside Western Province is the place where we really look at the economic activities happening. But in terms of, for example, if you take a platform like TikTok, which is quite popular among the rural target audience from 16 to 30 years. And a platform like Imo, for example, that's got popular among the youngsters outside Colombo, outside Western
Is it
Province.
because people go abroad and,
Imo, of course, yes,
Imo.
but TikTok is basically the entertainment appeal
I
that
was
they
referring
have.
to Imo.
Yeah, yes. So that is where we really need to convert the entertainment positioning of it to an economic advantage outside Colombo. Otherwise, as a country, we are savvy in terms of the digital penetration, but it's a matter of entertainment being transformed to an economic activity and capitalizing on it outside Colombo.
I think it's about spreading awareness as to what you could do with it rather than, sit and watch.
Exactly. But to add on to that question, Sherry, apart from Colombo, Gampaha and Kalutara, if you take places like Kandy and Galle, those are very important in terms of digital penetration. And Kurunegala is the emerging city of Sri Lanka because of, as far as the economic activities are concerned, because Kurunegala has access to Anuradhapura side, Colombo side, Negombo side, and again Kandy side. So Kurunegala is considered the emerging city of Sri Lanka in terms of the economic activities. So these are the centers, and especially Jaffna side, because there's a very high economic potential that we have not basically capitalized in the north and east. So bringing in digital to northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka, particularly targeting youth, is of crucial importance, because if you look at the TV penetration, the TV usage, those are those are actually dominated by the South Indian television channels. So this is where, when it comes to digital, the platforms such as the social media driven platform and then the e-commerce platforms coupled with payment gateways should be introduced right throughout the country, so that we can really see a development not only in Colombo but outside Colombo as well. And just one more point, we really have to strengthen the rural social entrepreneurs outside the urban areas. So that is also an important aspect where we have to take digital to rural markets to capitalize on that.
And you did speak about, different avenues through digital platforms to bring in revenue, because you said that it's important to focus on bringing in dollars with the internet savvy people living in Sri Lanka already.
Yes.
So what are the emerging fields in the digital age that Sri Lankan youth can take advantage of?
Well, number one is, of course, agriculture, because Sri Lanka, even if you look at the history of Sri Lanka, we are an agriculture-driven country. Whatever said and done, we eat rice and we produce rice. And we have a lot of agricultural products that are being grown, especially in the Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa districts, and also in the other areas as well. So now we have the production, and increasing the excessive production, we should find ways and means of exporting this outside Sri Lanka and bringing in more revenue. So I would personally see agriculture is an area where we really need to focus in terms of the digital transformation by also bringing in the e-commerce component. The point, Sherry, that we are missing is the value addition part of it. We have the raw materials, but we don't add the value. We send it to some other country, they add value, and they sell to another country. So we are lacking the value addition part. So as a country, we should be focusing on the value addition part, plus the delivery, and also having transactions happening all across the globe. That's number one. And on the other side, another area that we should focus is the education sector, because we have few of the top class universities in Sri Lanka with the digital platforms and learning management systems with Moodle and other platforms being introduced. We are opening up to a 9 billion population out there who can really receive education through Sri Lankan higher education institutes. That's another area through digital that we can focus on. And again, Sherry, there are so many areas, such as if you look at software development, because for a fact that India earns more money from software developers and IT industry than what it is to the amount of money that Saudi Arabia earns from oil. So that is the importance of software and the IT sector when it comes to the digital part. Because Sri Lankan youth is highly focused on the IT sector, software engineering, and the number of IT companies here. And also we know the amount of people who do migrate from Sri Lanka, if you look at last 1 year from the IT industry. So that is another area which we can really look at, because all these areas don't really need physical movements where you can earn a lot of money and transform those to financial advantages by working from home, and also by assuring mobility for that factor. So agricultural sector, education sector, and IT sector, for that matter, the service sector as a whole, we can really focus on the health sector when it comes to the health sector, because the MBBS holders, the doctors in Sri Lanka, are highly qualified people. And there are so many Indians coming through to the Karnataka airport and get medicines and go out from there, big celebrities and cricketers, because there are some top class doctors in Sri Lanka that we can really capitalize through e-channeling services, etc. And so likewise, we can look at the agricultural sector and service sector very importantly, and especially when it comes to industrial sector also, we are lacking there, but we can have a lot of lot of gateways opening up to the Europe and countries like Australia and the Russian continent for the other matter, because even if you look at the textile industry in Sri Lanka, we earn the highest revenue from the US. So why not US? Why not Canada? Because with the digital transformation being happening, we can make the products available on all these platforms, because in future there are two areas that are emerging. One is marketing, where you identify the need and wants of consumers and satisfy, rather delight the consumers. The other one is, of course, supply chain management, because supply chain management becomes even because of the digital revolution. The company who is able to add value to the customer the most are going to be, those companies are going to be actually the market leaders in future. Because if I order a watch today from the US, if I receive by tomorrow morning, the company which is able to bring that to my hands are actually going to be the market leader in the respective industry. So as a country, especially with the digital platforms being opened, we should really look at the ways of adding value to the customer, having big supply chains all across the world, and coupled with e-commerce factors. So that's I would say a holistic approach that we really have to take by strengthening the youth, because they have the capacity to do so. India is doing so, why not us?
Why not? We're the neighboring country, isn't it?
Exactly.
And it's about giving customers satisfaction, which is key at the end of the day. And I think from what you've mentioned, and about not getting the same amount of, or making the same amount of money another country would do with our brands, with our products, is something I think we need to work on from scratch. Actually, it's because I personally feel that sometimes we lack confidence in what we have.
Yes, we do. I think I would not like to tell it, but that's an area we should improve, because if you look at our history also, one of the reasons for that is maybe we are an island nation, that we don't have borders anywhere, and we are surrounded by the sea, and we don't let anyone come in. Portuguese come, we expel. Mm-hmm. Dutch comes, we expel. British comes, we expel. And even within the communities, we don't have the peace being built. Even in organizations, sometimes you do see this thing. So we lack confidence. Yes, I agree. And even sometimes with the political systems prevailing. If we lack confidence, why not we build confidence?
That's what we need to work on.
Exactly, because the mean year of Sri Lankans is now 32 years. It's not sad, but I would say it's an opportunity that we have an aging population. Aging population means the population is becoming more experienced and more exposed to the environment and the world, because this is a digital world. I know India has a young population, but we have an aging population. So we'll convert that to an opportunity. If we lack confidence, we will have confidence, because Shari, especially with Gen Z coming in, the Generation Z, who are going to go to industries in next couple of years, they have confidence. I work with them as a lecturer on a daily basis. I see them having confidence, and I see them having aspirations to start businesses. And I also work with Gen Alpha, the small kids. So when they come to industries after a few years, I'm sure things are going to change, because we are also in a transformation process, and I'm quite optimistic that us and the future generations of Sri Lanka gain confidence in the time to come.
You're listening to the Coffee Hour on Radio Sri Lanka, and we have with us Mr. Amila Dilshan speaking about the future of Sri Lankan youth in the digital world. And Amila, we spoke about what we could do with digital knowledge and about building confidence, which is key, because if we don't have confidence, I don't think we can market ourselves. If we don't love ourselves,
Certainly, yes.
how can we make another person love us? That's actually, I think, the simplest way of saying it, But what do you think the schools and the universities should do in terms of adding this into the curricula?
Well, so we have about 4 million school students studying, and in a year about 500,000 students are sitting for the O-level examination, GC O-level examination, out of which about 250,000 will go for A-levels. Half of them will stop their education that way, and even from that 250,000 who goes for A-levels, even less than 10% of students will get the opportunity to go to government universities. Others really do not have money. A considerable chunk of students do not really have money to go to a university in the private sector and get educated, because those are pretty expensive. So this is where, Shri, the question is coming from. We lack higher education opportunities as a country, mainly because of the financial situation of the families. So I would really not like to see a traditional point of view and a digital point of view, because there's no such thing called traditional and digital. Now everything is digital. Because, for example, if you look at a scope like consumer behavior, there's no such thing called traditional consumer behavior and digital consumer behavior. Now the consumer behavior is digital consumer behavior. So, but we are lacking this in the education industry. If you look at these 4 million students who are studying in Sri Lanka, how many schools do really have a smart board, an internet connection, and computers? It's lacking. So, that is an area where we really have to look at, because even though I do not like to categorize this as traditional and modern, I would have to say that we are still in the traditional system, because now the knowledge is quite available on Google and other platforms, and if you look at softwares which have been introduced by OpenAI and Google and other AI softwares, knowledge is freely available. But as a country, we should take a national initiative to build up skills, not only the knowledge, because now the knowledge is available, but the school education should be focused on outcome-based learning, rather building skills like leadership, critical thinking, communication, and creativity on digital platforms. Because not only the school education, Shari, even if you look at the higher education industry in Sri Lanka also, sometimes students do not really have the literacy to log into a learning management system, to read an assignment, upload it. And lecturers on the other side also sometimes lack the knowledge in terms of creating digitally driven assignments, because back in the days, we give an assignment, we ask them to type, or we ask them to write and upload it, or sometimes you just write in a piece of paper and keep near a lecturer's room. But those are actually old days, because
times
now
have changed.
Exactly, because now there are so many softwares, especially through Moodle and other backend developers coming as learning management systems. So inside these learning management systems, we have a whole series of assignment tools that we can use. For example, MCQs to be created inside LMSs. Games. We do not really focus on games as a tool of education in Sri Lanka when it comes to digital platforms and the transformation in the education, because games in the world is a fantastic way of communicating knowledge to students. We are actually not using it in the higher education sector also sometimes we lack. And there are other various things, like even when it comes to a case study, we still give a printed material. So things have to be changed in two ways, Shari. One is the content part, the other one is the delivery part. Content is also we are lacking now, because I personally believe it is of crucial importance that we should teach students history, we should teach students the religions and the language and all that. But on top of that, we have to bring all this digital knowledge. What is artificial intelligence? What is machine learning? At least to give them some idea from the school level, while also building the life skills. And also, right now in the higher education sector also, we should really look at content in terms of digital areas, and also the delivery part. Because you don't believe, since, I mean, in Sri Lanka, now the world is talking about fintech, no? World is talking about fintech. But if you ask in Colombo, how many universities offer a degree in fintech, you'd almost not find anything actually in the capital city also. I mean, education industry should take a huge transformation, a huge shift to digital, because the world is changing. Fintech is something that we do not focus on, because in India, with the Digital India campaign, it's working really well. That recently I was in India, where it said in the highways, no cash payments allowed in highways. Here you have kilometers and kilometers of lines of vehicles to pay the highway bill near the toll gates. So education industry is the foundation, actually. That is the place where we should start from. I would personally say, yes, higher education is important, but we should start from school education. The other problem that comes is the infrastructure. Because even though people have mobile devices, you remember, only in 2022, actually 21, there were 528,000 new mobile users that were added to the Sri Lankan context because of the COVID, because everybody was shifting to WhatsApp groups and Zoom education, so they were forced to do it. But right after that, now they have almost forgotten what they have done, and now they are back to textbooks. So it's a transformation, Shari. Seriously, we have to take
a huge step.
Yes, maybe not instantly, but with time we should plan and go. This is what we lack in Sri Lanka also, because now you have Sinhala medium education, which is important, but if you look at the number of government schools which have English medium education, still we have a long way to go. So
the ratio is less.
Very, very low. And then on the other side, the problem is teachers are not trained.
I was about to get to that, because now we speak of how this whole education curriculum should change, and about how we need to have a different approach in delivery. But when it comes to this, I guess the teachers should be versed enough to do that.
Yes.
In terms of technology, digital age, and about usage of new technology. So is there anything the government could incorporate in terms of spreading awareness to the teachers we hire to teach the younger generation? Because sometimes, like when you mentioned about projects, this is what I remembered. Now, I've personally seen little ones Googling and going on ChatGPT and asking for help and writing their assignments. But are the teachers capable of finding out whether this is their own project or this is ChatGPT? Because now there's a system to find that out as well. I mean, like, you can have different means of trying to hide it, but at least you need to have some sort of knowledge to kind of figure out that things like this can happen. So I'm just wondering if there is anything put forward to actually educate the teachers we recruit to, learn about the new technology, the new era, and the different other means of students trying to do things.
Yes. Actually, I'm going back to your previous question where we lack confidence, because teachers and lecturers look at students, they know more than us, they're going to use ChatGPT, and they feel insecure, which is a totally wrong mindset.
Exactly.
I mean, I would personally encourage as a lecturer to use ChatGPT, to use Google, but otherwise we will, be like people from the previous decades, because now we are in 2023 and we are heading towards a digital age. We should really encourage students to use this. But the problem that we face is, it's of twofold. Number one is, students, when they use all these platforms, they don't know how to edit it and take the right output, because they are just copy pasting from ChatGPT. On the other side, what happens from teachers' perspective is that, as I told you earlier, we don't focus on skill building, because teachers have not been, or the lecturers have not been trained. Because there's this person called Bloom who presented a taxonomy called Bloom's Taxonomy of Education. In the bottommost layer, he speaks of the remembering part. The knowledge should be remembered, but the topmost layer is creating and applying. we are still stuck with remembering part. It's a memory test that we still have, and teachers are used to, because they were trained in that system. So we should transform ourselves from remembering to applying and creating new knowledge. That knowledge, Sherry, can only be created and applied by uplifting the skills-based education in the education sector, where digital becomes the crucial factor. Digital technology becomes the crucial factor. Yes, I do agree with you. Government will have to take policies to, train them. But on the other side, Sherry, I don't know whether this is a controversial statement, but I don't really put the blame only to the government also, because we have a dependency syndrome that we always expect government to teach us, government to give us money, government to help us with health and education. But that is why we are also, we are like this today.
We are
also
stuck.
we are stuck, and as I told you, we lack confidence. Maybe that is one of the reasons. We should stand by our own feet.
It's a two-way thing,
It's a two-way thing, and now that teachers have, and lecturers and all the educators for that matter, have access to internet, access to digital, as we also discussed a little while ago, 165% mobile phone penetration, 66% internet penetration with considerable, bearable internet costs. Teachers have the access. For example, flip learning is a new model that the world is talking about. Outcome-based learning is a new model that the world is talking about to build competencies. So, if students are using ChatGPT, students are using AI softwares, why not lecturers and teachers are also using it? Because they have more tacit knowledge than students. Because we have come from the traditional education system, and we know as we receive an outcome, to cut and chop it and to get what is required and what is not required.
You need to know the base.
You need to know the base. And to this note, lastly, I would like to tell Sherry, teachers shouldn't teach. Teachers should let students learn, and the teacher's role have actually shifted to mentors and consultants, because they should be the mentors, they should be the consultants who are grooming the next generation, because the knowledge is freely available.
So it's about giving them that push.
Exactly.
And watch them perform.
Watch them perform and back them in difficult situations and guide them where they really need to go, and to empower them basically. Because if I go to the class and repeat the same thing that is coming out to them by the ChatGPT or any AI software or any search engine for that matter, why would I go to the class for that matter? I should be in a position as a lecturer, for that matter, all the teachers and lecturers should be in a position to transform the students through the digital platforms. Because even if a student does not come to the university, students should be able to get all the knowledge through digital systems that are available. That is where the digital content should be available in platforms.
I think here once again about traditional methods of teaching comes into play, where we are used to touch, and it's about tangible things.
Exactly.
They lack confidence in using something which they can't feel and touch.
Exactly.
Textbooks, for example.
Exactly. As you said, it's two ways. Sometimes students, sometimes it's from the system. So, but as we discussed earlier, we should take a shift. If we do not take a shift, we will also be lagging behind against the other countries and students. So that is where the transformation
this is the issue a lot of young students face in terms of challenges in comparison to the world over.
Exactly. And to the same note, Cherry, one more area that we should be focusing with the transformation is the psychological impact of it. Because sometimes even though we talk all about the positive impacts of the digital transformation, yes, for education it's also required, but lecturers and the educators should also be looking at the psychological component of students and back them. Sometimes they are stressed, especially with Gen Z students I've experienced. So as you said also earlier, it's a holistic approach that we really have to take by using digital as a platform in transforming this nation, by mainly focusing on the education sector as well.
Exactly. And it's also, I would say, something which we need to focus on in terms of building ourselves, and too much of anything is not good.
Not good, exactly.
You're listening to the Coffee Hour, and we're in the final few minutes. It's the last segment on the show, and we've been talking about the future of digital world and about also the challenges we face in terms of being a developing country and also a country which sticks to a lot of traditions. And I mean, that's not a bad thing, but there's actually there are ups and downs in everything. So we spoke of too much of anything is not good. So we need to have a balance, isn't it? So how can Sri Lanka ensure that its digital workforce is diverse and inclusive and not just limited to certain segments of society? Because you spoke of how important it is to have unison in terms of inside a workplace, or, good competition. Healthy competition is good, but then sometimes there's very unhealthy competition happening as well. So what do you think about this?
I see this in two ways, Shari. Number one is from a socio-economic point of view. The other one is in terms of the diversity that we should have among the industries. Number one, when it comes to socio-economic point of view, you have something called NDMS that we are doing, the National Demographic Research, where we identify 5 segments of the society: SEC A, B, C, D, and E, based on the education and the profession that they do and the number of durables that they have in their households. So I was a part of this one because I myself have been a market researcher for some time. Now also I'm engaged. So what we see is SEC A means the high-end target group, and B is the upper middle class that you have. C becomes the middle class, D is the lower middle class, and E is the lowest class. So we have only 8% of A's in Sri Lanka. Only 8% of A's, and we have 70% of C's and D's in Sri Lanka, which means our society is comprising by middle and lower middle class. So this is where we have to take the message to this C and D's, lower middle class and the middle class. Because if you look at the most popular singer in Sri Lanka, the person who becomes the most popular singer is the one who is chosen by these C's and D's. If you look at the mass crowd, the most popular brands are always coming from C's and D's. If we do not take the digital platforms, the transformations, the e-commerce, for example, to C's and D's, this country as a whole will not get there. So right now, especially in the e-commerce sector, where they monetize all these platforms, are only focused on SECS, 8%. So let's bring it further down from SECA to B and especially to C and D. If we can make them comfortable in the digital space, SECs and Ds, especially with the e-commerce sector, because we have to look at a diversity, as you asked, then we will get there. That's the first part. Second part is we lack diversity in terms of fields, because I told you we have 165% mobile phone penetration and 60% internet penetration. But if you ask from me, if you look at any of the modern trade outlets in Sri Lanka, we have 3 types of sales. One is general trade, where we have almost 58,000 outlets, including all the shops, groceries and pharmacies. So we have 58,000. And we have modern trade outlets, the 5 key channels we have. And then comes e-commerce. These are the 3 main avenues for sales. So if you look at the kind of effort that our modern trade outlets do put to get our users on board with e-commerce, and the resistance by our customers to use e-commerce, it's pretty sad, because we only used e-commerce during COVID. Till now, we have not been able to convert the normal customer to a digital customer, mainly because we have only 65,000 square kilometers and we are comfortable going to shops and buying stuff. So that is one of the reasons. So in terms of grocery sector, we have to look at the diversification.
I think this tangible thing comes into play.
Exactly, as you said. So in terms of grocery sector, we really have to look at the diversification, and targeting the export sector, Shari, we have to look at all different avenues that we can really capitalize from. Maybe it could be gems, it could be healthcare sector as we discussed, it could be the education sector, and mainly, as I told you, the agricultural sector. We do have a lot of agricultural products ranging from mango to rice to whatnot. Maybe we are not adding value. So as a country, we should train our social entrepreneurs, or rather the commercial entrepreneurs, also to add value and to transform them to e-commerce platforms. So to the question you asked, the diversity is of twofold, as I say. One is the socio-economic classification. Age also play a crucial role there. We discussed a lot on youth. So not only youth, but because since our mean age is 32, we really have to look at the adult set of people as well who are digitally savvy as well, because as a country, I personally believe that everybody is okay with digital. Even the oldest person in Sri Lanka is using a mobile phone.
At least Facebook.
And on WhatsApp.
Exactly.
So it's not a new thing. It's a small population. So as I told you, diversity should come from the socio-economic classification, SECs. The other one with respect to the fields. The second one should particularly target the export markets. Because as you know, we have to finance $6 billion per year as installments now that we have restructured that one, whereas we earn nothing in terms of revenue, only from the crops that we export and a little bit of apparel, which is also highly challenged, as you know, and the tourism. So as a country, lastly, I would like to really stress that we should focus on earning more and more dollars. That's the only reason. That's the only solution that we have. So earning dollars and using digital platforms for that are like two sides of the same coin. So we should really capitalize on it.
I think that's like a great message. And also, I hope this coffee hour had a lot of inspiration for the youth, and I'm sure they'll work on it. And I guess the system change would take time, but as long as we put a step forward and start doing it.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Ms. Amila Dilshan, for being a part of the show. And it was really fun talking to you.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for having me here. I would like to express my gratitude to the chairman and also the producer, Indira, for having me here. And you have been a fantastic host. I listen to you, and I also wish you all the best with whatever you do on digital platforms. That's fantastic to see. And wish you all the best. And I would really like to invite the Sri Lankan youth. You have the potential, you have the capacity. Let's capitalize and make this country a great place in the time to come. Thank you so much, Sherry.
Thank you very much. And you've been listening to The Coffee Hour with Mr. Amila Dilshan, consultant lecturer at NIBM School of Business. With that, we conclude the Coffee Hour program.
Welcome to Coffee with our morning host. We broadcast a host of programs like current topics, newspaper headlines, and music on Radio Sri Lanka. Tune in every weekday from 7 to 8 a.m.